Good morning. You're listening to Senior Scene on your hometown station, 1430 WNAV. I'm Joshua Killian, social media producer with the Anne Arundel County Department of Aging and Disabilities, and today my guest is Jim Krempel, Community Outreach Coordinator for the Anne Arundel County Office of Emergency Management. Welcome to Senior Scene, Jim.
Always a pleasure, Josh.
And Jim, today we're exploring emergency communications before, during, and after an emergency or disaster. Logic says that emergency messaging begins with warning of a pending threat. As we've seen in the news, with many of the tornadoes this winter, several towns use outdoor sirens as a warning device. Does Anne Arundel County use a public siren system for warnings?
Well, Josh, first, since we're discussing emergency communications, let's emphasize that anyone with a potentially life-threatening emergency should call 911 immediately. In the 20th century, fixed public sirens would warn of an incoming air raid, severe weather, or local emergencies. Even today, many rural areas use sirens as a weather warning system, especially in tornado-prone areas. Our county does not use fixed outdoor sirens. Sirens are not as effective for large jurisdictions, especially in urban areas, and can be difficult to maintain. And a siren tells you nothing about the nature of the emergency.
If warning sirens are no longer used, what systems are used to send emergency alerts?
Well, the Emergency Alert System, or EAS messages, are usually generated at the federal level through broadcast media, and they go to radio, television, cable systems, and satellite media. The familiar three buzzing sounds are data headers. It's followed by an alert tone that signals either a periodic system test or an emergency message delivered in a voice format. Wireless emergency alerts, or WEA, are similar, but usually generated at the state level and pushed to cell phone towers of most service providers in an impacted area. Most cell phone users in that area will be alerted by a siren-like tone and receive a brief text message with the warning. Both EAM and WEA messages may include presidential alerts during a national emergency, extreme weather alerts like tornadoes or flash flood warnings, or Amber alerts for missing children.
Well, thank you for clarifying those systems that most of us have heard. So does Anne Arundel County have a warning system of its own?
The county uses the Alert Anne Arundel Emergency Mass Notification System, powered by Civic Ready, to notify subscribers about emergency situations. And that could include hazardous weather, security alerts, hazardous chemical spills, missing persons, evacuation, shelter-in-place instructions, or water system issues. The system sends alert, voice, and text alerts to landline phones, cell phones, and/or email in the subscriber's choice of English, Spanish, or several other languages. The system is only used by the Office of Emergency Management, the Fire Department, the Police Department, Department of Public Works, and the Health Department. During the 2021 tornado event, the use of Alert Anne Arundel system helped get residents to safety early with no resulting injuries. Residents may subscribe at no cost by visiting the website shown, calling the Office of Emergency Management at 410-222-0600, or simply by scanning the QR code on the screen.
Well, now that we know about warning systems, what other communications means can our listeners use to get emergency preparedness information or receive guidance after an emergency happens?
Well, our OEM website at www.aacounty.org/OEM has information on emergency preparedness and links to subscribe to Alert Anne Arundel, as we described before. It also has links to request an emergency preparedness presentation and even fun ways for children to learn about emergency preparedness with our mascot, Pepper the Preparedness Pup, shown here. We also have a social media presence on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, and videos on YouTube to provide preparedness information or guidance. Similarly, business, nonprofit organizations, or houses of worship can use their own websites and social media outlets to inform their clients, members, or congregation about being prepared for emergencies or communicating guidance provided by the county after an emergency has occurred.
And how can our listeners set up an emergency communications plan for both themselves or for their families?
Well, as shown here, our OEM website has a link to My Guide to Emergency Preparedness, which assists families in building emergency plans tailored for their own situation. This includes how to create an emergency communications plan. So first, a written communications plan might include your family, your support network, including care providers, trusted friends, trusted neighbors, doctors and pharmacists, work or school contacts, and other important numbers such as your insurance agent or your bank. Having these important numbers on hand will be useful if the internet's not available. Then designate an out-of-area or even out-of-state family switchboard operator. like a reliable relative or trusted friends, to serve as the family's switchboard operator, like a central hub that everyone can send their status before, during, and after a disaster. Remember, if cell phone lines are overloaded, text is more reliable. All you need to text the trusted point of contact is who you are, where you are, and what your status is.
And what about emergency communications for people with access or functional needs?
That's a good point, Josh. People with chronic illness, mobility issues, or functional needs, like deafness, poor vision, and developmental disabilities, need to have a support group of 2 or more trusted family members, friends, or caregivers. These caregivers can help with emergency planning, to include messaging and guidance. This may include American Sign Language interpreters or assistive communications devices. Now, some people are not comfortable using digital media. Similarly, people with other than English as their primary language may have difficulty understanding emergency communications and guidance and need help with translation. Remember that communication is always two-way. Receiving and understanding warnings and emergency guidance, as well as being understood by first responders or healthcare professionals.
Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on the show today and telling all of our listeners about the communications aspects of emergency preparedness. Your office always offers a lot of practical information on how to be ready for any emergencies. How can our listeners learn more?
Well, it's always my pleasure, Josh. Thank you. Remember to prepare for any emergency, stay informed, make a plan, build an emergency kit, and get involved. Listeners can visit our website at www.aacounty.org/OEM for more information. And as said before, they can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, or YouTube. Any community group, civic organization, business, or house of worship can request an in-person or virtual emergency preparedness presentation by visiting our website, emailing oemoutreach@aacounty.org, or calling our office at 410-222-0600.
If you have any questions about any of our programs or services, you can always call the Department of Aging and Disabilities at 410-222-4257, or you can visit us online. Please also remember to follow us on Facebook. This has been Joshua Killian, social media producer with the Anne Arundel County Department of Aging and Disabilities, and you've been listening to Senior Scene on your hometown station, 1430 WNAV.